Everyone, and welcome to tonight's ordinary meeting of council, tonight's agenda forum, and I declare the meeting open at 6 p.m. Welcome to those in the gallery and those watching at home. I'd like to begin with our acknowledgement of country, which is Kaya Kaya Wajak Nanga Budja. The City of Swan acknowledges the traditional custodians of this region, the Wajak people of the Noongar Nation, and their continuing connection to the land, waters and community. And I'd like to pay our respects to elders past, present and their descendants. The terms and conditions of entry into this meeting are just posted on the door at the entry of the public gallery, and members are asked to please read them and please abide by them during the meeting. Attendance and apologies. We have all councillors in attendance except for Councillor Catalano. We have an apology, a leave of absence from Councillor Bowman, and we have an apology from Councillor McCulloch. We have Mr. Mark Bishop, who's the Acting Chief Executive Officer for this meeting tonight. And I'd like to move to part 4, which is disclosure of financial and proximity interests and interests affecting impartiality. Do any councillors have a disclosure of financial and proximity interests to be handed in? Thank you. Councillor Johnson, if you'd like to hand that up.
I'll hand it in about 5 minutes. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. For new councillors, if there's any items that are on the agenda for agenda forums or for ordinary council meetings and you think you might be associated with it or have an impartiality or a financial, or you're not quite sure, you're welcome to ask staff before, during or after, and those forms are in your desk in the drawer just under here, okay? And you can hand that up anytime during the meeting or just elbow someone and ask them if you're not sure. So move to part 5, which is petitions, and this week we have nil petitions. Part 6, reports and notices of motion. 6.1, additional information from officers. So there were 3 items included. So item 14.2.1, this is the adoption of the Guildford Hazelmere Local Area Plan 2025, which you'll find on page 7. There was a typographical error stating the final priorities for the LAP 2024R, and this should have been the final priorities LAP 2025R. And the report also referred to a creative cafe being held in August 2023. This should have referenced the creative cafe being held in March 2025. 14.2.2, draft policy LP 1.18, tree protection and management local planning policy, final adoption on page 46. There was also a typographical error on page 46 stating the City has recommended 30 modifications to the policy, and it should have said the City has recommended 31 modifications to the policy. And these corrections will be made in the minutes of the 12th of November ordinary meeting of Council. So the third item, which was 14.1.1, was the nomination of council members to the Midland Land Redevelopment Committee. Due to further nominations being required for the Midland Land Redevelopment Committee, a late report is required, and this report will be distributed to council members tomorrow on the 6th of November 2025 via Docs on Tap. I'll just ask our Governance Officer to add a little bit of extra information in there. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Just for councillors' information, we've been asked to nominate, as I said in my email out, 3 nominees, and the Minister Carey will then make a decision on 1. We have a resolution from last week's Special Council meeting nominating Councillor Prodovnik, so that resolution obviously carries forward. So we need 2 further nominees, and to date I've received nominations from the Deputy Mayor and from Councillors Bowman and Kuah. Nominations remain open obviously until council meeting next week. As part of being considered by the Minister, each person who is a nominee needs to do a CV. They've provided us a fairly straightforward pro forma CV that once I know who the 3 nominees are, I'll circulate that to you. That needs to be filled out as quickly as possible, and then it gets sent up through Development WA to the Minister. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Now, I've just had a disclosure of interest form for the 12th of November 2025 from Councillor Johnson. It's item 14.3.2, which is the amendment number 236, lot 3128-313. It's an impartiality. The applicant is a member of DFES and a DFES volunteer rescue service firefighter. Thank you.
Clarification, Madam Mayor. What that said was the applicant, which is the owner of the property, is DFAS, and I, Councillor Johnson, I'm a DFAS volunteer fire and rescue services firefighter.
Thank you very much. Now we move to part 6.2. We have our deputations. In accordance with the current procedures for public participation at agenda forums, all requests for in-person deputations were required by 6 p.m. on Tuesday the 4th of November 2025. All written deputations were received by 3 p.m. on Tuesday the 4th of November 2025, and they were circulated with the preliminary agenda on Tuesday evening. We move to 14.2.2, which is the draft policy LP 1.18, Tree Protection and Management Local Planning Policy, final adoption on page 46. And we have our first in-person deputation, not in support of the officer's recommendation, from Ms Janczak. And you have 3 minutes. Thank you, Ms Zek.
Thank you. Before I start, I'd like to congratulate new councillors and those returning. And to all councillors, thank you for your service to our community. The City of Swan has one of the lowest tree canopies in the whole metropolitan area. Perth is a miserable 16%. Swan's, when last recorded, was less than 12. Recent clearing for new urban has reduced this further, with new suburbs pushed to make 1%. Hundreds of thousands of trees are being cleared at a rapid rate. Over 50% of the LGA is rural land, but this policy only addresses urban areas, even though there is the opportunity to include rural trees. The city desperately needs to protect trees that still exist in increased number. Will this amended tree protection policy achieve this? I suspect not. If it is not clear, concise and enforceable, it will not achieve anything. I expected to quickly skim through this item and establish changes made and why. Instead, I was bogged down on the first page. The review was intended to make the policy clearer, less confusing, but I found the whole item difficult to understand. The inclusion of the June 2025 iteration, as well as the amended version, adds to the confusion. The necessity to refer to the 2024 report to clarify scope and provisions and references to other documents that required sourcing contributes to the problem. The community only gets 4 days to decide to make a deputation and register. There are only 5 days to review, digest, assess, research and prepare a deputation. When a document is as confusing as this, it takes longer. If I'm familiar with terminology, planning processes or documents referred to, this is hard and it takes more time. New councillors are confronted with a steep learning curve. To expect them to review all the items on the agenda, comprehend them and work out what questions to ask is an impossible task. To expect them to do this while navigating myriad council protocols, technology and personnel is asking a lot. I'm surprised that the first agenda is so large. City staff were aware that there would be new councillors after the election, and rather than assisting with them this transition, this item, which is not time sensitive, could have been delayed for a month or two without prejudicing the outcome. This would have provided the opportunity for a briefing some other councillors have already received to dispel some of the confusion and provide some assistance. Considering how poorly researched and written, confusing and lengthy the report and policy are, it is questionable as to how well the policy will stand up to challenge. What is the point of all the work and money already committed if this document is incapable of protecting what is left of our trees? Why hasn't City staff utilised the WAGA model tree protection policy, modifying it to suit? It is clear, concise and effective and would provide a level of uniformity across LGAs, making challenges more difficult. A month's delay could address all these issues. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms Zek, for your deputation. 14.3.3, my apologies, questions? Do councillors have any questions for Ms Zek? No. Thank you very much. 14.3.3 is the proposed local structure plan for Lot 23, Lot 24 and Lot 25, Stirling Crescent, Hazelmere, Swan SP 2025/1, page 206. And we have in-person deputations not in support of the officer's recommendation for Ms Lynn Deering. I don't think I can see Lynn here tonight. Okay, so we move to in-person deputations in support of the officer's recommendation. Tane Evershed from Planning Solutions. Thank you, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. Thanks for the opportunity to speak. Planning Solutions acts on behalf of all three landowners that are subject to the structure plan. And on behalf of the landowners, we support the officer's recommendation, which is to support the structure plan with modifications. From there, it's referred to the WAPC for their assessment and determination. As outlined in the officer's report, there weren't any objections to the structure plan from surrounding landowners during advertising. And this, in our opinion, reflects the uncontroversial nature of the proposal, which will allow industrial uses consistent with the prevailing land use pattern. Advice provided from government agencies is either supportive or can be addressed at future development application stages, as is contemplated by the modifications and Part 1 of the structure plan. The future development within the structure plan will also be conditional upon further technical reporting to support specific development proposals. And this will include development-specific bushfire assessments, site and development-specific stormwater management plans, wetland management plans, development and land use specific site and soil evaluations for effluent disposal, and acid sulfate soil investigations. As I say, all of these will be required individually at development application stage. So to conclude briefly, the structure plan with modifications will address all the land constraints, thereby establishing a rigorous framework upon which future development can occur. Thanks for your time.
Thank you very much, Mr. Evershed. I'll ask councillors, are there any questions? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, my first question is, of the landowners in the structure plan area, which of them are supporting the structure plan?
All three of them.
I thought there were more than three.
3 lots, 3 landowners, 3 supporting.
Okay, thanks. And can you explain what happened to the trees at the on the structure plan area at the corner of Amherst Road and Stirling Crescent?
The structure plan is on the corner of Amherst Road.
I'm sorry, I've got the wrong one. Apologies for that.
Okay. Are there any further questions?
Yeah. Just correct myself, councillors, we're looking at lot 23, 24 and 25. Is this a retrospective application?
No.
It's not. But looking at the usage, one of the lots has a house on it and it's approved for dwelling, but it looks like it's being used for industrial purposes already.
This is an application for a structure plan that proposes an arrangement to facilitate development for future land uses. This is not an application for development or retrospective development approval.
I understand. And the structure plan goes right to the edge of the, nearly to the edge of the Helena River, correct me if I'm wrong, and I understand there's a 10-metre buffer. Would it be reasonable to have a larger buffer?
The 10-metre buffer is what's been asked for by DBCA. That'll be a vegetated landscape buffer in accordance with their requirements.
Okay, thank you.
Councillors, any further questions for Mr. Evershed? Right, thank you very much for coming in tonight with your deputation. And I've just seen Ms. Deering, would you like to come up and give your deputation? Thank you, and you have 3 minutes.
I'm responding to item 14.3.3, the structure plan lots 23, 24 and Stirling Crescent in Hazelmere. As Lynn Deering, resident, and also involved as facilitated with the Friends of Woodbridge Bushlands. This proposal extends the light industrial zone. It is indeed a large document of 680 pages. It's an extensive proposal from the proponent's perspective. impacting on the total area of 12.3.1 hectares, 1.8 of natural area, and just 14.6 a wetland. We know wetlands are significant. They play a purpose. They diffuse toxins from soil, environment, and are also endangered due to overdevelopment, wrong development, and misuse. They share a relationship to ephemeral streams, watercourses, and the water table. So you will be aware, either from reading or the reading you do post this, that there is a wetland on the sites that are being proposed for industrial development. And this wetland actually connects to the wetlands that exist in the Helena floodplain, right? It's connected, just like the lakes over at the Hazelmere area. There were 3 lakes there. I'm yet to mention habitat and bird life. Given this plan proposes the extension of industrialisation and removal of access to nearby lands of Helena River, the potential impact of reshaping these lots and the relevance of the wetland, current water table issues and flooding across the valley, and I'm referring to the Swan Valley, I'm concerned that it all seems wrapped up. You know, this proposal is big. We only got it Friday afternoon. We only got access to it Friday afternoon. 2 non-working days, 2 working days. And yet we're required to respond to this. I do not feel that we have had enough time to respond to it. It really concerns us that something that we've provided submissions to is suddenly being railroaded through, and I appreciate that there's a lot of work gone into it, but we need time to look at this. I wish to understand what level of analysis has occurred within the City of Swan planning area in reviewing this document. Have our planners worked with the proponent in working this proposal up? How has it considered our City of Swan's version of the information provided and the implications upon Hazelmere, Helena River floodplain, or the proposed freight line realignment? Or has it got the ticks? You know, the criteria has been applied and we're going to tick it off. Thereby, right, I accept this, you know, thereby we are accepting that this proponent knows better than us and our council who actually works and is involved in this area. I ask respectfully that basically we are given more time, because it just makes me ask, what expertise did our City of Swan staff have and sought to respond to this comprehensive response? How has the City of Swan planning staff undertaken the analysis? Was it fact-checked? Can I understand, you know, how does this relate to our environmental tree canopy, Helena River, and the understanding of the water table impact that once we concrete over these last 3 blocks?
Thank you very much, Ms. Deering. I have allowed extra time already, but I do have some extra deputations tonight.
Yep.
Thank
Madam
you.
Mayor, can we like to propose extra time for Ms Deering?
If that does happen, councillors, can you call that earlier if it's going to go over the time?
I'm doing it.
Is
doing it now.
anyone against? For 1 minute extension?
2 minutes? 2 minutes?
How
yeah.
many minutes would you need?
2 minutes would be really good.
2 minutes? Is anyone against?
Right.
Thank you.
What expertise has been sought in relation to the water table impact within the area and the other side of the Helena River upon the buildings? Given Hazelmere once had a series of 3 lakes, which now only has 1 lake that is actually refilling, can the City of Swan confirm that this proposal has been given due attention in relation to runoff, water table, and also access? It concerns me that this will not allow access, and yet I understand from the work of the Bilbilla group that it is really important that the access is maintained, and we are concerned about the buffer. This is not a credible buffer. In the mining industry, it is 20 metres, 50 metres. This is 10 metres. This is not a buffer. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. If you'd just
Madam
like to
Mayor.
stay, because there'll be some questions. Thank you. Councillors, does anyone have a question for Ms Deering? Councillor
I
Henderson?
have a separate question other than Ms Deering.
Is that for staff at the end?
No, given that Ms Deering was late and Mr Evershed's already spoken, should we give him an opportunity to address the issues raised?
I can't go back at this stage. As far as I know, we'll just continue forward, and I'll ask councillors if they.
If I
have
may
any
say, my
questions.
questions are directed to the City of Swan. They're not actually directed to the proponent.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I think that disadvantages the applicant and they should be given an opportunity.
I'll just check. Mr. Acting CEO, is there a way of going back?
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, I do not believe so. We'd have to amend the meeting procedures to change.
Okay. Are there any questions for Ms. Deering?
Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Okay, councillors, move to 14.3.4, proposed Hazelmere Special Use Area 16 Structure Plan, Lot 651 and Lot 39 Sterling Crescent, and Lot 58 and Lot 83 Bushmead Road, and Lot 93 Hazelmere Circus, Hazelmere, which is the Swan SP 2025/2 on page 215. In-person deputations not in support of the officer's recommendation. We have Mr. Greg Hull from the Woodbridge Ratepayers Association. Thank you, Mr. Hull, and you have 3 minutes.
Good evening, councillors. Thank you for the opportunity to speak, and we too offer elected councillors our congratulations, and continuing councillors your wonderful service to the City of Swan community. My name is Greg Hull, representing the Woodbridge Ratepayers Association as acting president. May I emphasise that the WRA is not opposed to development, but it must be planned with care for the environment, health, safety, and for traffic management. We consider this proposal fails those tests. Woodbridge is one of only 2 heritage-listed localities in the City of Swan. Residents there already live with constant noise and congestion from air, rail, and road traffic. This proposal, as the previous one some years ago, is based on the 2011 Hazelmere Area Structure Plan, would seem to make that worse. Our main concerns. Firstly, traffic. Major increases in heavy vehicle movement through congested streets. Secondly, noise and pollution. A 24-hour highway service facility bringing continuous noise, flood lighting and road damage. And thirdly, the risk, the threat to health, safety and the environment, especially the Helena River floodplain and the Hazelmere Lakes. Let's look at the road design. The proposed Distributor B road allows trucks 60 to 70 kilometres an hour, but connects only to Sterling Crescent in the northwest and Hazelmere Circus in the south, which both are relatively narrow local roads near sensitive areas. In reality, Bushmead Road would bear most traffic, and it's already overloaded. Now look at the highway service facility. By the way, we're not addressing the residential, as I mentioned at the outset. We're not opposed to development. Let's look at this highway service facility. Can you imagine concrete yard, bright LED floodlights all night, engine noise, fuel risks, constant trucks on a floodplain beside the Helena River Reserve? This is not compatible with a residential or environmental zone.
And thank you very much, Mr. Hull. That was your 3 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions for Mr. Hull?
Yes.
Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'd like to ask Mr. Hall if he needs more time to make your deputation. Did you finish it?
Yes, 30 seconds. I think the introduction welcoming new councillors took my finale away.
So, councillors, an extension of, it's usually in minute lots, so another minute. Is anyone against? No, thank you.
All right, thank you so much, Mayor. if we look at planning and community voice, the City of Swan's local planning scheme number 17 and the Guildford Hazelmere local plan prioritise well-being and the environment. And that's clear in the 33 objections to this proposal, and with only 5 in support. And so those concerns may not have been properly addressed. So the WR, I would just ask councillors to honour the aims of LPS 17 and the local plan, the aims and the principles contained therein, listen to the community and reject this proposal in its current form. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. If you'd just like to stay there, I might have some questions. I heard Councillor Harlett.
Hi, thank you very much for your deputation. So what I've heard you say is that the Woodbridge Residents and Ratepayers Association is not opposed to residential development on the western side of the Spine Road, as per the original Hazelmere Enterprise Area Structure Plan. Is that correct?
Correct, yes. The stage, as contained in stage 1, stage 2. It seems to be the whole support or oppose the whole proposal, but not the stages.
Okay, so to be clear, the issue you view to be the problem to your support is the use of that precinct 3A, which I believe is west of the Spine Road, to be used for a highway services zoning. Is that correct?
Correct, yes, in the northwest corner.
Thank you.
Under the power lines.
Councillors, are there any further questions for Mr Hull? Right, thank you very much for coming in tonight
Thanks,
and giving your deputation. We have Dr Robert Ilkich from Lower Helena Association. Is he here tonight? I don't think he is.
Sorry, Mayor. I just had a text from Robert Ilkich, and he said he didn't get confirmation that his deputation had been accepted, so
Okay.
I didn't think he was speaking.
All right, thank you for that.
If it's emailed to me, can I read it out?
Unfortunately, as far as I'm aware, we can only take it from the deputy that's registered. I will check up and find out what happened with the.
Question, Madam Mayor. We have done that on occasions before, so I'd like to move that we do allow Lynn Deering to
Just
read
one
out
moment.
someone
I'll
else's
just get some
deputation.
advice from the governance officer. Thank you. We'll accept that. Thank you. Yep. If you have that email to you. Oh. Copy of that.
So would you like me to ask him to send a copy of
Yes, please. Just one moment. One moment. Okay, she gives it and does it. Happy if you can get that emailed, and happy if you'd like to give the deputation now. If you do, you have a copy of it?
Yes, his son's got a draft of it.
Okay, great. And you have 3 minutes.
Right, starting now, is it? My name is Dr Robert Illich. I'm the resident of South Guildford and I represent Lower Helena Catchment, which is made up of friends groups and residents of the area within the Hazelmere, Woodbridge, South Guildford and Guildford areas. We believe there's not been enough time to review and seek answers to our questions to be able to support this proposed structure plan beyond the residential housing component. We request that a decision on the structure plan be deferred by a month. Put simply, the document raises more questions. Why is the fuel station and depot being supported at this location? It is too close to the floodplain. Is Stirling Crescent to remain closed at Lloyd Street? Where are the RAV7 vehicles going to, apart from the fuel depot? Why does this proposal allow a 24-hour fuel depot so close to our floodplain? How is the risk to our Helena River plain and reduction of tree canopy being addressed? This same project, the same plan was rejected in 2023. It has the same combination of residential, land, industry and commercial. Council report states there is little change from the 23 proposal to the 25 document. Clearly, no effort to respond to the community's 30 submissions that raised 9 substantial areas of adverse impact. Of significance is the inappropriate location of a refuelling depot by the Helena River floodplain and loss of amenity, vegetation, tree canopy and habitat. This is the wrong location for this concept and your community does not support this proposal. Why doesn't the structure plan look to address our concerns and modify the proposal? Stirling Crescent is the wrong location and within the proximity of habitat black cockatoo rests. Stirling Crescent, lots 651, 39 and 38 house trees over 8 metres, 30 years plus, black cockatoo nesting boxes known by DCCPA. It was recognised by the Australian Wild Cock Account as a daytime food roost. Yet, those trees are now gone. That was decimated in a day. That was removed. Can we trust the contents of the plan considered? Has this proponent acted in good faith, given that during the consultation period, this proponent's rash over-clearing, removal of tree canopy, vegetation and habitat? Clearing all vegetation on Stirling Crescent precinct site during springtime. Is this proponent allowed to clear during the consultation period on land still zoned special use? To support this proposal without being clear on the proposal nor without reviewing the inclusion of the 30 objections puts at risk our Helena River and accepts the proponent's disregard approach. In this current state, this proposal does not align to the city's new tree or canopy protection or biodiversity strategy. There is no longer an adverse impact of lost tree canopy, habitat and vegetation at the Hazelmore Circus as it's been destroyed. It's too late. Let this not be supported to allow us to destroy our Helena River and the amenity of that area. Lower Helena catchment groups cannot support an approach to our Helena River nor our community in this way. Defer a decision on this proposal by a month, allow more time for it to be properly reviewed and questions to be properly answered and addressed. If nothing has changed in the structure plan from 23, then it should be rejected.
Thank you very much, Ms Deering. Questions for Ms Deering? Hang on before you disappear. Probably can't ask on behalf, but I'm sure that you could relay them back and I'm sure we'll be able to watch the meeting. But thank you very much for your deputation. Now we have our third in-person deputation not in support of the officer's recommendation from Renchi Tigenden from Helena River Steiner. Welcome. And you have 3 minutes.
Thank you, and a very quick congratulations and thank you so that I don't use up my time. Good evening, Mayor and Councillors. My name is Renchi Tigenden and I speak on behalf of the community and board of Helena River Steiner School, located directly opposite the site of the proposed special use area development. Our school is home to 100 students from kindergarten through to year 7. As a Waldorf school, it is a place of learning deeply rooted in nature, hence our location. Our children spend much of their time outdoors, gardening, exploring the bush, and learning beside the Helena River. We're here tonight to express our strong objection to the proposed development as it poses significant risks to students' safety, well-being, and the natural environment that forms the heart of our school. Firstly, the structure plan and traffic impact assessment failed to identify our school as sensitive land use, a clear requirement under state planning policy and livable neighbourhoods. Schools must be recognised and protected from incompatible uses, yet our existence is almost entirely overlooked in the documentation. Secondly, the proposed Eric Lumsden Drive intersection, designed to accommodate heavy vehicles, would sit just metres from our school entrance. This creates a direct conflict between industrial trucks and school traffic at peak drop-off and pick-up times. There's been no modelling of school traffic, no pedestrian safety infrastructure, and no mitigation for hundreds of daily movements by young children and families. This presents an unacceptable and foreseeable safety risk. Thirdly, the proposal would place a school within an industrial context, a combination that is fundamentally incompatible with sound urban planning principles. Industrial use brings noise, vibration, dust, diesel emissions, and visual intrusion. They also carry risks associated with hazardous materials and heavy machinery, all of which will severely compromise the health and well-being of our students, particularly those with sensory or respiratory sensitivities. No child's learning environment should be situated within such proximity to these hazards. To do so is to undermine both safety and the integrity of our educational purpose. The proposed introduction of light industrial and highway service use so close to our classrooms would destroy the peaceful, nature-based learning environment that our community treasures, as well as being hazardous to the health and safety of our children. Finally, I note that our school was not thoroughly consulted during this process. I note there's a comment that the school was provided with a letter prior to the consultation process. We did not receive such a letter. However, consultation requires discussion, and there has been none. This omission contradicts the city's own commitment to genuine community engagement and transparent planning. We respectfully ask the council to recognise Helena River Steiner School as a sensitive land use within the structure plan, relocate the proposed intersection away from the school, require a revised TIA that includes school-related data, move industrial zoning and heavy vehicle routes further away from the school boundary to ensure the safety of our children, and establish substantial buffers, landscaping and acoustic protections to preserve the school's learning environment. On behalf of our staff, students and families, I urge the council to stand with us in ensuring that planning in Hazelmere protects both progress and people, and particularly our children.
Thank you very much. Councillors, does anyone have any questions for Ms Digadam? No, thank you very much for coming in for your deputation tonight. We have in-person deputations in support of the officer's recommendation from Justin Hanson from URPS. Thank you, Justin, and you have 3 minutes.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, councillors and officers. It's just interesting listening to the emotive submissions that I've just heard. I did have a deputation to go through various items, but I think I'll just focus on those that have been presented tonight. Firstly, with the Steiner School. Now, the Steiner School has purchased land and developed a site that has been planned as an industrial area for over 20 years. If it's their due diligence that they want to buy and develop a site directly affronting industrial, then that's their due diligence and responsibility to address that as part of their own development. The land use compatibility, the structure plan aligns with the Hazelmere Enterprise structure plan, placing residential, light industrial and highway service zones in a way that buffers existing homes from heavy uses. Importantly, transport depots are prohibited, and a 20 metre or 27 metre setback from Eric Street ensures separation and amenity protection. These are the recommendations of the city under the previous report, and I suggest the submission that the plan hasn't changed, need to possibly just put the two plans together and see the significant changes that have happened. The environmental damage, the tree removal that has happened hasn't been the proponent's work. It's been the work of one of the northern landowners who, from day one, has not contributed to the structure plan at all. The structure plan has been developed and paid for in isolation by the southernmost landowner that's here tonight, part of the Callow family. So the responsibility for us in preparing the structure plan was to retain those trees and to provide environmental advice at the time of doing subdivision over the land. We weren't able to access the property. We weren't able to have that landowner participate in the structure plan, but we did our best to try and address the tree retention as part of the structure plan. The fact that they've come in and removed the trees after the fact doesn't help our cause and doesn't help the landowners that have done the right thing in that area. Public open space, I think, was raised as well. We are providing 11.7% of the, which is typically required of a 10% requirement, now providing 2 parks compared to 1 under the previous structure plan. That the parks are to provide sufficient drainage for major events, so essentially capturing drainage on site before it hits the main drainage system and on its outward path. The last one, the power line relocation, which is on the land to the north, or the northernmost land parcels. The relocation of the power lines was one of the initiatives of the original proponent of the structure plan, which was the landowners to the north. And we simply just honoured that as part of this current application, notwithstanding the land ownership has changed.
Thank you very much. Mr Hanson, that was your 3 minutes. I'll ask councillors, are there any questions for Mr Hanson? Councillor Howlett.
Thank you very much, Justin. Appreciate your deputation and coming tonight. I've got questions for staff, but I've also got questions for yourself. It seems that we might have a slightly different understanding about the Hazelmere Enterprise Area buffer area. I understand the HESP, I read that as saying that the east side of the road, the proposed Oak Lumsden Drive, to be light industrial, forming part of the buffer from the core industry. And together with the road, I understood it and understand it, that to be forming the buffer to the residential area to be proposed for the west of the road. So I'm curious how you have a slightly perhaps different interpretation and why you think highway services would be acceptable in the western section, northwestern section of 3A, please.
Yeah, or can I answer the buffer? Yeah. Yes, the transition. So there's always been the objective of providing some kind of transition from industrial to residential, particularly the objections that was received on the previous application. So essentially by providing residential on our western flank, it's essentially a buyer beware who buys residential houses in that area, and they'll need to comply with noise standards both for the airport and for industrial, which might be double glazing or other elements that are typically required for noise house packages. The road includes a cap road, which is so you'll have the main industrial traffic, and then essentially private residential roads. So there's no crossing of driveways or directly onto the industrial space. Now the highway commercial, that was a recommendation of the city in the previous application and essentially supported as such. The current structure plan honours that, and also honours the restriction of particular uses, including a transport depot, which was seen to be a potential nuisance. So while there's objections raised tonight about fuel depots and these things, there's no fuel depot planned. These are land uses that are permitted in those areas if someone chooses to apply through a development application. So in terms of buffers, we've got a minimum 27 metre buffer to residential areas to the south, or along the southern road that faces Eric Street, I think it is. And that's in addition to car parking, landscaping, setback of buildings as well. So, the difference between the shed per se to the residential properties is well over the 27 metre mark. And then as part of any DA development application for the site, they need to, one, have suitable uses, but also have suitable noise and traffic provisions that limit the impact on those properties. So it's not just the structure plan, they've got to go through several steps, conditions of subdivision, they've got to go through conditions or a development application and conditions of development application to ensure that those residents aren't impacted.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm not sure I appreciate everything you've given it. I understand that. I'm not sure you've maybe answered the question. I'm curious to know why you view the residential zoning for the proposed west side of that road to be suitable for light industrial, but that's okay. We can leave it at that one. I do have a further question. It states that the realigned Eric Lumsden Drive will deliver 6,350 vehicles per day. And as you were clearly outlining, there is, to preserve safety and flow, there's going to be a local resident access road to separate traffic. So in saying that, and that as that road is distributed, being designed to be a RAV7 heavy vehicle usage road, is it fair to say that a majority of those 6,350 vehicle movements per day will be heavy vehicles?
The proportion I can't answer offhand, but it's based on a square metre rate for industrial, and then a per lot a rate for a residence. So residents typically you calculate it at 10 vehicle trips per day. There's 40 odd homes, so 400 vehicles per day would relate to residential. The remainder would be industrial. It's not just our site; it's the thoroughfare that it represents. So what people need to understand is this is the last piece of the puzzle of that whole industrial area. We're creating a road that creates a ring, the westernmost ring of the development, and all the traffic pushes east and avoids going through the residential areas, which is the current problem.
No, that is understood, and that's always been part of the Hazelmere area enterprise area structure plan. It's correct for that ring road to be there. Just two further questions. One is, you've heard here tonight that the structure plan, had it remained committed to the original proposal as people understood it in the Hazelmere enterprise area structure plan, that was developed with a lot of consultation with the Hazelmere community decades ago now, that if it was to remain residential on that western flank, the full section, that you probably, apart from a slight perhaps realignment of the top end of Eric Lumsden Drive, you'll probably receive very little objection and great community support because residences, houses are required. Given this, is this something that you might, or the applicants might consider, and that is to remove the highway services portion of the structure plan?
Well, as the proponent here, who's the southern landowner, what happens to the north is probably totally irrelevant to them. As someone that's not contributing to the structure plan, which is the northern landowner, they probably shouldn't have a say in what goes on. But for that to be in residential, I'm not sure what the current landowner situation is to the north, if they're industrial developers. But from my point of view, and dealing with developers all the time, residential is a preferred outcome over industrial. But in this location, we're always going to have that transition buffer issue. So,
granted, but at some point we need to stop the industry creep. Otherwise, it just is industrial creep. So at some point, my last question, thank you, Madam Mayor. My last question is, and it's just born out of your deputation tonight. How can we have trust that all the landowners will cooperate if, as you say, before approval of this structure plan, one of the landowners is seemingly, doing what they want on their own land, I guess is fine. And so there is a concern that perhaps there isn't a cohesiveness between all three landowners or however many there are.
5, yeah. So the two southern landowners are definitely cooperative because we need to put the road through both property. They're both reliant on each other to put Eric Lumsden Drive through. The northern portion, there hasn't been a lot of communication with them, but the way it's structured and the way that the road network can function with traffic pushed to Bushmead and heading east, the southern landowners and the northern landowners can work in isolation without complication. Ideally, we'd like to put a road application in for the whole lot from north to south, but it's very likely that we'll put a staged approach for Eric Lumsden Drive. It's actually ready to be submitted, so we would like to get on with it. Yep.
Okay. Councillors, any further questions? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. Look, so this is being staged in 3 stages, and you're saying you represent the landowners who are owning the land around stage 1, is there a risk that we'll end up developing the road in stage 1, but the road in stage 2 and 3 will not get developed? It will just stay as it is.
I think the road's always going to be developed because there's a special area rate that's funding the road. It's just the proactiveness of those individual proponents. I know there's other consultants dealing with the land to the north. I understand that they're preparing development applications, so I would highly understand that they would be submitting a road application as well.
That's true, but it's at the end of the day, it's up to them whether they decide to go ahead with it. I mean, there's a risk you might end up with just a stage 1 road, and then stage 2 and stage 3 continue with the current use.
Which can function as long as access is available to Bushmead Road, then north and south can run independently.
Thank you.
But yeah.
Okay. Councillor, is there any further questions for Mr Hanson?
Oh yeah, I do have one further question, Madam Mayor. Councillor Howland mentioned that in the northern section, the area that is highway service, this area currently is except for the fact all the trees have been chopped down, the surrounding area is of a rural nature. But noting the fact there's a high voltage power line going right across it, has there been any consideration of any other use other than highway service?
Industrial is typically the best use for that. It's not to say that residential can't work in a voltage situation. You know, Dayton and those areas provide example. Plenty of others are in the metro area, but as a functional use, you can properly have an industrial use under, which it could be storage or holding areas, as opposed to residential, which is simply just sterilised and doesn't get any POS credits.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I'll just ask again, councillors, are there any further questions for Mr Hanson? Thank you very much for coming in for your deputation tonight. And we also had a written deputation from Mr Nick Grinrod from Rise Urban in support of the officer's recommendation. Councillors, we move to 6.3, which is the time when councillors are able to ask questions in regard to items that are on the agenda only. Do you have any questions for staff? Councillor Henderson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Under 14.2.2, I've got lots and lots of questions, but one in particular on page 77, part 19. It refers to description and planning showing 10% increase in the site's tree canopy achieved in the period between project completion and planting. I would really like to understand, does that form part of public open space? Does it, is it additional where it may be required? It seems open to me.
Mr Vanderlyn.
Through you, Madam Mayor, that 10% is an increase on vegetation that will be in place at that time. So so it includes additional vegetation that was planted. So that at the time when the first development takes place, you look at what the vegetation cover is at that point, and that what they prepared and proposed to plant in addition to that at maturity should increase that cover by 10% for the total subdivision area.
Thank you, I understand that, but does that mean that there'd be further land required to achieve that? And does that effectively add to the public open space content, or does it get encompassed within it?
It is encompassed within it, so that is planting within both identified public open spaces in the structure plan, within road reserves and on private properties.
So you're saying that some of the trees within the plan would be encompassed in private property?
Indirectly, yes, because under the R codes, each and every property is required to have a deep soil area of 2 by 2 meters for a tree to be planted.
Yes, thank you, I understand that. But a substantial tree with 4 metre canopy, is that what you're talking about in that 2 by 2 plot, or are you talking about some shrubbery?
In accordance with how our codes have been prepared, it is said that within that 2.2, a substantial tree can be grown within that area.
Okay. A further question, Councillor Henderson? Councillor Howlett.
Thank you. Okay, my question relates to 14.3.4. Noting that the Hazelmere Enterprise Area Structure Plan was endorsed in 2011, is it still current or has it expired?
Thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Mayor. It is still current. I believe it's being programmed for review next year.
Thank you. Further question?
Yes, please. Relating to the same item, Madam Mayor. Has the road hierarchy of the proposed Spine Road, Eric Lumsden Drive, has that changed since its concept in the Heath?
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the HESAP didn't indicate precise technical details of the proposed Spine Road, and I'll hasten to add that the nomenclature Eric Lumsden Drive was the previous proponent's suggestion in relation to what that road might be called. It's not a position that's been endorsed by this council, to my knowledge. So we refer to it as the Spine Road, yet to be named. There is, I believe, a percentage design that our staff have worked on in relation to this Spine Road, but the HESAP simply looked at an appropriate standard road carriageway within, I think from memory, a 20 metre reserve, or might have been 30 metres, I can't quite recall, that provided the fundamental link between Hazelmere Circus and Stirling Crescent with a connection at Bushmead, the purpose of which fundamentally was to prevent or divert industrial traffic from going through the local residential streets of Hazelmere. That was its purpose, as workshopped extensively at the time of the HESAP.
Thank you. Same item. Are the proposed residential and light industrial areas in 3A, are they able to connect to sewerage, or are they going to be connecting to septic?
Through you, Madam Mayor, the residential areas of Hazelmere do have access to sewer, so it would be expected that these residential lots, certainly in the scale of the lots proposed under the structure plan, will be required to be connected to reticulated sewage.
Thank you. And one further question on that. The gentleman giving the deputation tonight, Justin, excuse me for not using your surname, I don't have it in front of me. When asked about the highway services, he responded saying that actually that was proposed by the city to the previous applicant with the structure plan. Is it, if that's the case, so previously the city's negotiated or worked on the HESP with the Hazelmere community through consultation, and that west section of the west of the Spine Road was always zoned residential. Why would the city, or did the city, propose highway services to be located there? And if so, why would they have done that?
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Through you, Madam Mayor, Mr. Hanson, I'm sure not intentionally misspoke when he indicated that it was recommended by the city. It was not recommended by the city. The area depicted as highway service was the landowner of a gentleman called Mr. Howard Hawkes, who was the proponent previously of the original structure plan. He came in, and it wasn't on our suggestion, it was his intent, and I would say largely in response to the fact that the power line easements across the land would provide a constraint to residential development, and for various reasons, including that, he was of the view that what he wanted to propose for the structure plan area and for his particular piece of land was highway service. It was not at the behest or suggestion of the city.
Thank you.
Councillors, are there any further questions for staff on any of the items on the agenda? Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. My questions relate to 14.3.3. This is lot 23, 24 and 25 on Stirling Crescent. And just for the benefit of councillors, I did get confused about this earlier because these two items, 14.3.3 and 14.3.4, are very close together on the same road and in similar kinds of land, so it's kind of confusing. I'm looking at the structure plan, which I'm looking at. It's challenging to see it. I've only got it electronically. I think I was on page 14. Yeah, page 14 of 465 in the attachment. And I'm looking at the two things: the buffer and the power easement. And I'm also reading from a letter from the Boryul Barbilia Aboriginal Association. So there's a question for staff as to where the concept of the foreshore buffer of 10 metres has come from. So is that 10 metres some planning standard, or is it just something that the proponent has decided is advantageous to them? Could the staff answer that one?
Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The nominal 10-metre buffer was the recommendation of the Department of Biodiversity and Conservation. So that is a additional buffer area from the edge of what is the Helena River Foreshore Reserve adjoining. So it's come about from their recommendation. And it's quite often the case that what you will have is a buffer from the edge of an area that might be rehabilitated or retained as a reserve for bushland or foreshore vegetation. That's its genesis.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Ross. Yes, so my next question is, if we've got the traditional owners suggesting they would like to propose a 50-metre buffer, is that a reasonable thing to put in an alternate motion to amend this structure plan?
Mr. Russell.
Madam Mayor, it's open for this council to consider that if it wanted to make a recommendation to the WA Planning Commission for an extended buffer, not associated with environmental conservation principles, but in recognition or acknowledgement of cultural matters. So it's at the discretion of the council if it wants to so decide to make a recommendation that way.
Thank you, Mr. Ralston, because the letter I've got here does talk about Aboriginal cultural heritage of the river. Next question, they're also proposing that as the power line easement is along the foreshore, again looking at the same diagram, councillors, I wonder if you're able to find it. They're also asking, is it reasonable to include the power line easement within the foreshore buffer? I guess same answer, I suppose.
Mr. Russell.
Well, effectively the same answer, Madam Mayor. It's open to the council to make any recommendation. The power line easement is regulated to the benefit of Western Power in relation to what you can or can't do underneath that. If the suggestion is to, from Councillor Johnson, that that where you have the delineation of the power line easement, that area be an extended buffer area associated with either the foreshore or the cultural issues within the Helena River foreshore, I suppose it's up to council.
Thank
Further
you.
question?
Yep, I've got some more questions. So the question is if that's an extended foreshore buffer and power line easement are all included in a buffer between this proposed industrial area and the Helena River, would it be possible to zone that as parks and recreation?
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, if I understand the question correctly, would it be possible to have that area as a local reserve for recreation? Is that the question?
I'll just zone it for, I don't know, zone it so that it's not industrial. It's to be used as parks and recreation.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I suppose if the request is, could that also be included as a part of a regional reserve associated with an extension of the Helena River Foreshore Reserve, similar to the way that the structure plan has talked about the possibility of the wetland being a regional reserve. It's possible for the council to recommend that. I would suggest that for the purposes of a regional reserve for foreshore, that isn't something that has come at the recommendation of the Department of Biodiversity, Conservation and Attraction. So unlike the city's disposition on the wetland, which is supported by a request from DBCA, the council would be making such a suggestion without any supportive justification from DBCA.
Yeah. And there's another question here I've been given. Given that this area is likely to be, or the area surrounding this is going to be a Helena River regional river park, is it reasonable at this point to maintain the special use zoning rather than moving it to light industrial?
Mr. Russell.
Through Madam Mayor, the special use zoning is intended to identify some form of special use. It's not of itself a form of land use. We'd still need to outline it through a structure plan. So what's being outlined here is a form of use consistent with the recommendations of the Hazelmere Enterprise Area Structure Plan from 2011. So what this structure plan is following in terms of a land use intent is anchored in a established strategic document supported by the Commission and the Council. So that's where the light industrial intention has come from.
Thank you very much, Mr. Russell. I think that's all the questions I've got on this item. Thank you.
Councillors, are there any further questions to staff? Councillor Howlett.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So my question is just really about the fact that there are 7 Midland Guildford Ward items on the agenda for this month, and 3 of them are related to structure plans or such planning matters in Hazelmere, so hence it is a fairly confusing matter, considering this is the first agenda I've received that didn't have planning documents or maps attached. They were all obviously accessible, but online. So working off a single screen often, it's quite difficult to jump between items and documents and take notes and get all the information I need. So my question is, was there a need to group or to have so many Midland Guildford Ward items on this agenda for this month? And was there a need to have 3 particular for Hazelmere? Noting it is the first council meeting for several new councillors.
Thank you, Councillor Hallett. I do remember the CEO sending out an email just recently to councillors apologising. There was quite a heavy agenda for the month of November, straight after an election, but I'll ask the acting CEO if you could add. Oh, sorry, thank you, to Mr van der Linde.
Madam Mayor, through you, the answer to that is no, certainly not. If you look at the agenda, 2 of the structure plans and the scheme amendment on Great Eastern Highway are all of those are applications that's time limited. So we've got only a certain time period to get it before council. So the answer is definitely no, it wasn't the intent to group applications together. The other part of your question related to the fact that the attachments have been circulated under separate cover. That basically came about as a result of, as you know, we previously only included a summary of the documentation, the technical documentation, not all the whole of the water management plan. But in the last 3-4 council meetings, councillors specifically asked for that information to be circulated. And in this instance, because it's quite complex applications, we've decided to include that information because that is what councillors have asked in the last 4 meetings for. And having included that made the agenda very large, and therefore we had to separate it out.
Okay.
Further question?
Yes.
So can I take from that, through you, Madam Mayor, that we will, will we be receiving attachments in the printed form if that's how the councillors choose to get their agendas, or will they continue to be available only online?
Thank you, Mr. van der Leen.
Madam Mayor, my suggestion will be for these structure plan and these type of reports then, that we do it like we've done it in the past. So in the agenda we've got, so we address all the technical detail in the council report with the relevant attachments or components of those attachments in the council items, in the agenda itself. And if councillors then require further information, you then ask for that separately. That's the only way. Otherwise, we're going to end up with huge agendas all the time.
Okay.
Madam Mayor, I've got a further question on that. When we are looking at planning items, it's often necessary for councillors to refer to page 14 of page 495, as I just did. I actually wonder how many councillors actually were able to follow to find that and find page 14 of page 495 whilst I was talking. If you've got a paper agenda, it's possible to do that fairly quickly because you just quickly turn to it. But if you've got to deal with the complexities of going into docs on tap, finding a particular document and then working your way forward, I think we are going to have to go back to paper if councillors need it. I certainly do, and I think if I'm referring to someone, I would hope that other councillors are going to turn to it. So I think we need to look at this, or we're not going to be doing our job particularly well. I've got a question now about both 14.3.3 and 14.3.4. On each of these, members of the community asked, because they felt they've only got 4 days notice of these items, because once the agenda is published, there's only 4 days for members of the community to get their act together and decide they want to give a deputation. And so the question is, can we defer these 2 items even though we're going to exceed the 60 days? Is that something we can do?
Thank you for your question. I'll ask Mr. van der Leen. Oh, sorry, Mr. Russell, thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, through you. Look, I think it's, well, let me start by saying I'm entirely sympathetic to the comments made by members of the public with respect to the amount of time they have once the agenda is released to review the reports and documentation. I should say it's important to note that when we advertise these structure plan proposals, the whole of the documentation is accessible online. So it's not the case that this is the first time members of the community are seeing it, although I accept to make a submission, it's a difficult thing. The city has an obligation under the regulations to report or make a recommendation to the Commission within certain timeframes. And we're facing those timeframes in terms of the presentation of this item for a council recommendation next Wednesday. Of course, it's open to the council to choose not to make a resolution on it. The risk there, of course, is that the Commission may proceed to determine it without a submission of council. So the risk, I suppose, Madam Mayor, is that in delaying it, the Commission could resolve to proceed to make a decision uninformed by any reasonable recommendation or suggestion that the council might make. I would add as well that the capacity, and it's important to note, the council is not the decision maker. So the capacity for members of the community to make representation and submissions also exists to the actual decision maker, the Commission. So between having seen the report, the city report to the council, and the recommendation, there is the opportunity for the the members of the community, the proponents on behalf of members of the community, to utilise the time between the council recommendation and the actual decision of the commission, which is likely to be some 4 months, in which they can fully digest all the documents and material and then actually make a deputation to the actual decision maker. So I think there's the opportunity for that without putting the council in the position that it takes a risk of the commission proceeding without a formal recommendation because we've gone beyond time.
Thank you for that explanation, Mr. Russell. Councillors, are there any further questions for staff this evening? Councillor Carr.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just on 14.3.3, the Department of Health does not support the plan without either sewer connection or detailed site and soil evaluation for on-site effluent disposal. So can the city clarify what qualifies as dry industry? Is it like no liquid disposal at all under local planning scheme number 17, and how this will be enforced?
Thank you, Mr. Russell.
Through you, Madam Mayor, the notion of dry industry is a industry that produces a quantity of effluent that doesn't exceed the parameters of the government sewerage policy with respect to on-site effluent disposal volumes. And in fact, it's an actual recommendation of city staff to council that the structure plan documentation be amended to actually precisely spell out the existing scheme definition of dry industry, which makes reference to those volumes of permissible on-site effluent disposal.
A further question?
Yep, thanks, Madam Mayor. Further on this item, lot 23 and 24 contain wetland classified as resource enhancement, which DBCA recommends be reserved as regional open space. The applicant has not provided evidence to justify the reclassification of wetland. City of staff did suggest resource enhancement wetland potential as regional open space, subject to further investigation. My question to City, to clarify what steps are needed to reassess the wetland classification and whether this affects the development potential.
Mr. Russell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. If I reference page 211 of the agenda, okay, page 211 of the agenda, where I quote in italics the DBCA advice, and it says, if the proponent considers that the wetland evaluation or delineation mapping over lots 23 and 24 is not accurate, there are opportunities to review and amend the geomorphic wetlands of the Swan Coastal Plain mapping through the provision of specific environmental information in accordance with methodology for the evaluation of wetlands on the Swan Coastal Plain and or wetland identification and delineation. So the advice that the DBCA has provided to the city and that the proponent is also cognizant of is that there is a process. They may go away and do the requisite environmental studies commensurate with the methodology that DBCA have set out and provide that to DBCA. And if DBCA concur with any such findings, it might then reclassify the wetlands from resource enhancement the next level down as multiple use. Now that has already occurred on one of these lots. I think it's lot 25, which is the I believe it's the easternmost lot, where they went through that process, did the study, submitted that to DBCA, and DBCA were in agreement and reclassified that portion of the wetland over that land from resource enhancement to multiple use. So that's a possibility for the proponent to go through. In point of fact, city staff did suggest that it might be appropriate and more efficient and effective to undertake that reclassification if that was the landowner's intent and have that done before the structure plan is finalised for assessment. But the proponent wanted to take to take the structure plan with the existing classification, noting that if it wants to reclassify it, it can go through the process I've outlined, and then what would happen if they were successful is that they would need to come back and amend the structure plan if it is adopted by the Commission in the form in which it's present here, showing that as a resource enhancement wetland. They would have to modify it, commensurate with the outcome of any re-evaluation, to, I suppose, effectively eliminate the green wetland if it's of no value and indicate it as light industrial like the rest of it.
Thank you, Mr Russell. Any further question there? No? Councillors, any further questions for staff this evening? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, my question is of a fairly minor nature. I'm referring to the attachment to the Guildford Hazelmere local area plan item, the actual plan itself. I'd ask councillors and staff to turn to page 33, and we're looking at a map there with some keyed items. And if I can just draw council's attention to page 29. So if we start off at page 29, we can see community infrastructure planning. We've got community facilities 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, parks and public open space 7, 8, 9, 10, arts 11, natural areas 12. So now turn from page 29 to page 33, and what we've got there is city facilities, and we've got some kind of like hieroglyphic iconic thing in different colours. So community centres in red, equestrian centres in blue, libraries, and so on and so forth. And like on the other side, other services, aged care, childcare centre, fire station, so forth, all using the same symbol. Could, through you, Madam Mayor, to relevant member of staff, could we just change this to numbers or letters or some other symbol that's easy to understand, such as a cross for a hospital and a, I don't know, flame symbol for a fire station, something like that?
Through you, Madam Mayor, we can take that on notice and have a look at the numbering.
Thank you.
Councillors, any further questions for staff tonight? No? Thank you very much to those attended in person in the gallery. Thank you to those watching at home online. We look forward to the Ordinary Council meeting next Wednesday night. Thank you to staff, and safe trip home for all councillors. And I declare this
Madam
meeting...
Mayor.
Oh, my apologies. Yes.
Madam Mayor, excuse me, the confidential information that was provided this evening, is that for to be returned to staff tonight, such that it come back to us next week?
Thank you.
Through you, Madam Mayor, no, councillor, you can take those home, but then next week when you bring them back to the Ordinary Council meeting, we ask councillors to leave the confidential reports at their table place, and staff will collect them.
Thank you very much. Safe trip home, everyone, and I close this meeting at 7:22. Thank you.